we proved George Zimmerman was not guilty. The prosecution of George Zimmerman was disgraceful. I am gratified by the jury's verdict, as happy as I am for George Zimmerman. I'm thrilled that this jury kept this tragedy from becoming a travesty.
Should the case against George Zimmerman have ever made its trial in the first place, or did politics hijack the entire judicial process?
Judge Alex Ferrer, host of Judge Alex, has been following the case and is here to weigh in. Judge, looking at Corey, tell me, most prosecutors are more impressive than that. It's hard to believe someone that mean. I couldn't even understand what she was saying.
Well, first of all, it had the wrong tone. I mean, she smiled throughout the whole thing. I think she could have just said, you know, we're sorry that we did not get the verdict that we thought we would get. We sympathize with the families of the victims and we share their pain, but we respect the jury's decision. That was it. And yeah. It went so much further, but she said some things that jumped out at me. She threw in there the race, that to the extent that race played a part of this, even though the prosecutors throughout realized, once they realized that they could not prove any racial animus, because the opposite was proven. It was proven that George Zimmerman was anything but a racist. In fact, the only racial animus that came out was about Trayvon, you know, using that racist term. The prosecutors backed out and throughout the case said, this is not about race, this is not about race. But she still threw it out there, and I think that was telling, because at the beginning of this case, they started it with that momentum, that this was going to be about race, because they needed that kind of a fuel behind it. They introduced those 911 calls, only the ones where he said black male, because it gave that undercurrent of race, even though they were not going to ever be able to sell that. And I think once that Rachel Jeantel used that term and indicated clearly that the one who was driven by that may have been Trayvon in evidence. They were pressured to try to calm down the tensions by bringing charges. And so what they did was they bought peace. They bought peace at George Zimmerman's expense. When the tensions were high and there was likely looting or rioting or unrest, they said, we'll charge him, and by the time we get to trial, and this is my opinion, by the time we get to trial, things will have settled down. Well, what happened is in the trial, people realized the evidence showed he's not a racist. The evidence showed there is a viable self-defense claim here, and that's the reason I think that there isn't the tension there was before. But that the prosecution was not supposed to bring charges in order to alleviate tension, because look what it cost George Zimmerman. I mean, health-wise, the 100 pounds, his future. He's now a marked man because he's had the official stamp of the state attorney's office that this man did this. We're going to prosecute him. And now they walk away and they're, good, we don't have any civil unrest. Well, they're going to get sued. They're going to get sued by George Zimmerman. I have no doubt about that. And the network's going to get sued. You remember that major network that modified his call to police to make it look like he was a racist.
Up until now,